How did you meet Michael, actually?
As long as it stays green, we're not friends.
So did you hop straight from Hawkinson to Vegas?
My first ever Paradise Challenge was absolutely insane.
Hablo español, pero necesito más practicar.
Yeah, prevent a school shooting while you're at it.
Welcome to the GOAT Show, the show where we celebrate and debate all things great. I am joined by my co-hosts, Fresh and Deezy. Gentlemen, good to see you. How you doing today? Hope you're feeling all right. My name is ZiLLY, aka Ravine, and man, we have got a really great show today. We got a guest that I've spent some time with and has a lot of interesting insights into the world of high status networking as well as photography. So if you're a photographer, you definitely want to hang around. If you're a dude who just needs a little help in getting out there and maybe talking to ladies and all that kind of stuff, you definitely want to keep watching the show. His name is CASEY HERZOG, and we will get to him in just a moment. But before we do, Fresh, what the people got to do, man?
You got to like, you got to subscribe, you got to hit the bell, you got to comment, you got to send it to your mom. You got to actually, you know what? Today, I think you got to send it to your dad, send it to your uncle, send it to your best friend, and anybody else you think that needs help with their shit.
Send it to a divorcee,
Send it to anyone who says they're voting Kamala Harris.
Men for Kamala, you're definitely going to need to send this episode. And the last thing I'll say is we are on a new platform. It is called Drip. Drip.hos is the URL. We love this new platform. We're really good friends with the people over there. You can collect the GOAT Show digital collectibles exclusively there. So definitely check that out when you get an opportunity if you're listening out there. And it's a great platform. So definitely check those guys out. But without further ado, CASEY HERZOG, welcome to the GOAT Show. How are you doing today, man?
Good, man. What's up, boys? I'm pumped for this.
What's up, man?
How's it going, bro?
Yes. So before we get into everything, because there's a lot to talk about with you, you're doing a lot of interesting things. I just want to ask you a simple question. If you could have any superhero power, any superpower, what would it be?
I think for me, I've thought, obviously, I think every guy has always just thought about this as the one thing that we always think about. We always just imagine what power we would have. And there's definitely some good options, but for me personally, it would be mind reading. That would be my superpower. I've always just had fascination with kind of the human psychology aspect of things, and that's why I got into kind of the field that I'm in. So, being able to really just maximize that part of my life would be kind of a crazy experience. I think that's where I'd go with that.
Hey, man, I definitely feel you on that one, and that's definitely in my top 5 superpowers I'd love to have. Well, from superpowers to superhero origin stories, maybe you can tell us a little bit about where you grew up, kind of your life story before we get into all of the different activities you're in, from photography to high status networking, but maybe just where you grew up and sort of your life story up to that point.
Yeah. So I grew up in a kind of a smaller town. Actually, where I actually went to school was a little town that was not even on a map. You can't even find it. It was super small. It's called Hawkinson. But it was right next to Vancouver, Washington, which is right across the bridge from Portland, if you guys know that little area. Grew up there. It was kind of a small town vibe. And just because I ended up living, kind of in that small town, there was always this part of me that wanted to go out and explore. And I think it's kind of a unique thing because a lot of the people that were in my high school that I grew up with, they're still there. They're still in the small town. They never left. They never did anything with their life. And so when I kind of broke out and went to Vegas, a lot of people were questioning why I was doing this. Why are you leaving? Why are you going to Vegas? Vegas is just, this place for degenerates. And, for me, it was just the stepping stone along the path of my life that I, and the things that I wanted to do, because I didn't want to be that guy that just grew up in his small town, married the girl, from his high school, worked a shitty 9-to-5 his entire life. So I wanted to go explore, see the world. And that's what I did. So it's been a pretty crazy journey coming from such a small town to where I am now.
So did you hop straight from Hawkinson to Vegas? Was that like kind of the big leap for you?
It was a little bit of, because I feel like when I was younger, you don't even really realize that you can leave your small town. So it was a very gradual pace for me. I knew I wanted to get out there and do stuff. So I went from Hawkinson, I went to Seattle, Washington. That's where I kind of broke out first. And then from Seattle, Washington, I met a couple of guys who I ended up starting a business with and doing some, entrepreneurial adventures with. And the three of us ended up leaving Seattle together, moving to Vegas together. So it was kind of a cool experience in that sense. But yeah, I kind of did a little bit of the stepping stones up to that point.
Cool, man. And you're, we'll come back to Vegas, but you're currently in Colombia?
Medellin, Colombia. Yes, it is. It's kind of becoming a popular place on social media. I see posts all the time of these, passport bros rolling out to Medellin, Colombia, and how awesome it is. And I can tell you, it is an amazing place to live. There's pros and cons for sure. But it is one of my favorite places that I have been to as far as like staying long term outside of the US. I just last year did all of Europe. In November, I head over to Bali as well. So I'm kind of still checking out some places, but Medellin has always been that place that I've kind of came back to. Yeah.
And what made you choose Medellin?
I dated a Colombian girl, and she was like, we were hanging out, and she's like, "You have to go to Medellin." And I was like, "Why?" She's like, "There's me, but like millions of me." And I was like, "Wait a second."
Wait, why are you telling me this?
Yeah, and she was not wrong in any sense of the word. Like, you walk around Medellin, you walk down the street, and every other person you see is just a absolutely stunningly gorgeous woman. And so it's very cool in that sense. Like the level of attractiveness for like the women is at a different level than you'll ever see in any other city. At least any other city that I've been to. The only one competing, what I would say, is Buenos Aires, Argentina. The women there are absolutely stunning. But outside of that, it's like 20%, 30% of what Medellin is. It's a really unique city when it comes to especially dating.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was there, man, a while ago for about a month. Had a business partner who was there, and hung out with him for a little while. And yeah, I'll attest to everything you're saying. And the city's beautiful. I mean, it's in a valley, and you have all these skyscrapers. I mean, it's stunning. I think Fresh, you have you gone there, or you have family there, or something like that?
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. It's extraordinary. I don't know, Deezy, if you've been to Medellin before, but
You guys speak Spanish, or just went with the translating app?
Hablo español, pero necesito más practicar.
Hey, listen. We're monolingual. Is that a word? Monolingual here?
I grew up in San Diego, bro. You had to learn some Spanish in San Diego.
Dude, when I go to Miami, I'm like, this is not the US. This is straight up just like Latin America, just like attached to the US.
I think I had like 10 Uber drivers like when I was there, and 8 of them were Venezuelan.
In
and didn't speak
yeah.
any. Oh no, yeah. in Miami, yeah.
Oh, in Miami, yeah. It's a lot of Venezuelans, a lot of Cubans, a lot of Colombians. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, cool. So anybody watching, take a trip to Medellin. You might like it. You 100%. May not come back. Don't bring.
Be careful though. We say all these good things. I've watched maybe 70-80% of the people that have came down here have something bad happen to them. Wow. They're getting drugged, robbed, whatever it is.
Damn.
Yeah. So just be careful if you do come down.
For sure. All right. Well, let's talk about you. I mean, there's so much to talk about with you, man. But I think sort of your start was in being a photographer. Is that accurate? Is that kind of your first skill set that you were developing, or did you have some other things that you did before that?
Yeah. So I ran my own publishing company on Amazon. So I sold books through Amazon. That was kind of my jumping off point when I moved to Vegas. That was the thing that allowed me to have the freedom to move to Vegas in the first place, was kind of having this online business that I could work from anywhere. But yeah, from there, I had some troubles with Amazon. When you're kind of platform dependent in your business, it's very, very easy for your business to take a nosedive, because essentially if that platform makes any decisions that are negative towards your business, like you have no like recourse. It's just like they're like, nope, we're changing this, and you're like, okay, thanks. I now make 80% less than I did. And so that's what kind of happened to me. I moved to Vegas. I was, my business was crushing. I was having an amazing time, but Amazon made a huge change that really just crushed my revenue. And from there, that was when I decided like I wanted to do something else. I love business. I love doing it, but I didn't feel like it was something I was very passionate about. It was just something I was doing for the money. And not to say that it's bad to do something just for the money. It was just for me, I wanted to kind of find out what I was passionate about, what I liked, what I loved. And photography was just one of those things that I kind of tested out and ended up, falling in love with. So that was kind of where that came from.
If someone's let's say somebody wants to hop into photography, because, well, before we get into that, I got to ask you this question, and we've talked about it in when we've had conversations, but is the camera the ultimate aphrodisiac for the ladies? If you become a photographer and you carry that camera around, is it a assumed thing that you're going to be attracting the fine ladies, or do you have to put work in?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. I've seen some photographers that are some of the most amazing photographers I've ever seen, who I don't think have seen a woman naked in the last 20 years, aside from taking their photo. And but then I've also seen guys, who it is just every single girl that they shoot with, they are hooking up with. Like, and not to say that it's like, again, it's not the photography thing. Photography is something that definitely allows you to have access to more women, because if you go around and you do some portrait photography, there's just going to be more women in your life. So, but a person, a professional baseball player hitting 0 for his batting average, doesn't matter how many at bats he's getting, he's still hitting 0. Whereas a guy who's hitting 1,000, if he just gets more at bats, he's just hitting more home runs. So, that is basically the gist of it. It's like, it's just more at bats. That's essentially all it is.
The reason I asked that is because I think, there's some people are really passionate about photography. I know that you are in general passionate about just photography as it is. I think there's a lot of guys who kind of, want to sneak in and they just pick up a camera and all that kind of stuff. So I guess my question to you would be, let's say someone is just wanting to do photography and is passionate about it. How would you recommend they start out in this day and age? Should they get a camera? How should they maybe go about trying to do shoots and these types of things?
Yeah. When I started off, like, I got a just junk camera from a buddy of mine. I was like, hey, I was talking to him. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get into photography. And he's like, dude, I have this old camera. It was like a T2i from like 10 years ago. And I was like, all right, I'll use that. So I took that from him. And then I went and bought a lens. And I threw a photo shoot I had a nice place at Panorama Towers in Vegas, kind of overlooking the strip. I threw a shoot at my place every single week for a year. And my first year as well, like, I had a very strict rule on my behavior around models as well. I was not allowing myself to hook up with any of them or even try at all. I was like, I want to focus on my reputation. I want to make sure that I'm actually doing this for the right reason, that I'm actually into photography, that I actually enjoy photography. I didn't want to be that stereotypical creeper photographer just doing this to get laid. So I was very clear with myself, like, first year, absolutely none of that. And just simply by doing it as much as possible, I was able to build my skill set really fast. And I'd say that's like the biggest thing for guys who are starting out is just go do it as much as possible. Like, you should be shooting, if you can, every single day with whoever's down to shoot, wherever, however, because that's how you're going to get good. And if that's how you get good at any skill, is by going out and doing it and, learning from your mistakes. And the more you do that, you're just going to get good at it. And I would definitely recommend as well, guys who are starting out in it, do the same thing as me. Like, you should have a very strict rule as far as your behavior around models, your behavior around people you're shooting with, because again, if you're getting into photography just to smash and have a good time, like, all right, you make your own moral decisions on that, but that's definitely not going to be a long-term strategy for you, because photography you're going to get bored by it, or you're just never going to get to the skill level where it's going to be a very advantageous tool that you can use and leverage in a way that's going to actually get you the results that you want. You're always going to be sitting at this like mid-tier level results because you're just using photography for this other reason and you're actually not into photography at all.
I got a question for you. I've been slowly, getting more into photography. My wife has had this camera, but I'm curious on what you think of it. It's a Rebel T6.
Nice. Yeah, as I said, I started on a Rebel T2i. That's like 4 generations before that one. The body of the camera is not as important as the lens. I would invest some money into a fast lens, fast meaning a low aperture lens, shooting like 1.4, 1.8. I would put my money into that. And that's going to get you higher quality photos than buying a nicer body. Nicer bodies are more so, there's 2 things that bodies are good for. Number one is videography. When it comes to videography, there is a very large difference between like a old body versus like a brand new one. And then quality of life changes, autofocus, things like that, buttons, programmable buttons. But the actual quality of the image is pretty solid out of most cameras that have been made in the last 15 years. So
Tight. Well, I also have this big ass lens. I literally know nothing about cameras. I'm learning
that's
as I go.
probably a kit lens. It's probably got a variable aperture from like 4 to or 5.6 to like 8 or something. I recommend
4 to 5 point. It says 1
4 to
colon 4 to
5.6.
5.6. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would recommend buying what's called a prime lens. It is a lens that has a fixed millimeter length, so it's not a zoom lens. Because you can get those down to a lower aperture, especially with the older cameras. You want to have a lower aperture setting because it allows you to have more light into the camera. And when you have these older cameras, the biggest problem that they have is their ability to handle low light situations. So you want to buy a lens that's kind of going to compensate for the lack of low light performance in the actual camera. And so my first lens was a 35 millimeter 1.4. You can get one of those. You can get a 50 millimeter 1.4 for like $200. They're extremely cheap. It's usually the first lens that people buy. 85 millimeter is also good. So any of those 3 lenses.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
I mean, if y'all watching out there, I think you're realizing Casey's kind of the goat of all this kind of stuff. So definitely, and we'll talk more about how people can follow you and do all that soon. But I want to ask you, man, what are some of your favorite shoots over the years? Are there any like 1 or 2, or are there any shoots that come to mind where you're like, man, that was fantastic?
Yeah. My first ever Paradise Challenge was absolutely insane. It was during COVID. I went out to Jamaica. I had no idea what I was getting myself into either, because Paradise Challenge is, for those of you that don't know, is it's a travel shoot, exotic location shoot, where photographers and models will go out there. It's ran by a guy named Joel Alvarez, and he runs Black Tape Project. And essentially you go out there and you just shoot with probably 20 to 30 models that are really, Joel brings out some of the best talent in the world. And so you get to go out there, you get to shoot with some of the top talent. The crazy part for me was I had no idea what this resort was that we were going to. And so it's a resort called Hedonism. And it is a swingers resort. So as soon as I showed up, I walk into the entrance and there's just naked people walking everywhere. And I was just like, this is not normal. I'm talking to a guy I knew, and I'm like, why are all these people naked? And he's like, oh yeah, this is a swingers resort. I was just like, holy shit. So I will say the things that I saw that week, I don't think are appropriate for this call, but I will say that it was quite the experience. On top of just shooting with some of the most incredible models that I had ever been able to shoot with, and having just an absolute blast, because again, it was during COVID. So it was kind of just dead, except for like the photographers and models, and these models and photographers didn't really have anything else to do. So there was a ton of models that came out, and it was still kind of in the beginning. So the quality was really high, and it wasn't as well known. So there weren't as many guys there. I did go to a recent one, I think last year or the year before, and there was like 10 times as many guys there that time. Yeah. So it's definitely gone down in quality, but that first one that I went to, what an experience.
That's awesome, man. Well, let's talk about, Vegas. Like, so you get to Vegas, and what did you end up doing in Vegas? And I know that you were part of some kind of group there, right? Where you guys had like I don't know, like you were all in like one place, and I don't know. Can you kind of talk about that whole experience? And then I think that leads into COVID, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so my two best friends, we ended up moving to Vegas together. This was actually when I took the Vegas immersion program. This is a program ran by he who shall not be named, an old instructor from the RSD days. He would run the program, and it was a month-long program. And so we went out there to do this program, and it was just quite the experience. Going out every single night in Vegas, doing some of the most ratchet shit that I've ever done in my life. We used to have this shark mask in our house. If you come to MOA Summit, by the way, we play these videos on the big screen during Summit, but they're fucking hilarious. But yeah, every girl that would come over, we put this giant shark mask on them and they'd dance around and shit. It was just fucking crazy time. But that was kind of my entry into Vegas, was going through the Vegas immersion program, kind of learning the ins and outs of Vegas. And after that, I actually did go to Medellin for 6 months and then came back to Vegas after that. But yeah, that was kind of my break into Vegas.
To Vegas. And wasn't there like some ranch or something, or am I making that up?
That's later. That is later.
Oh, that's like, okay.
Yeah, that's down the road, like right before I went and lived in Medellin was Ranch Island. But yeah, so like when I came back to Vegas after Medellin, I actually ended up coaching in the Vegas immersion program. So I was coaching that entire year. This is when I really got deep into photography. And then after that, we had COVID, and COVID was just this kind of crazy time. And I ended up networking with this guy who owned the biggest mansion in all of Vegas. It was this place called Ranch Island. It has the biggest residential pool on the entire west coast of the United States, like insane property, 13 waterfalls, just super cool place. And I networked my way into that, basically helping him with his YouTube channel. And it was just an insane experience where I was living at this location and there was just the most beautiful women you've ever met in your entire life just coming over constantly. I remember one night, I'm not gonna name who it was, but a very prominent influencer with quite a few followers. I just walked out my door one day and she's just sitting by the bar, and we had this dope ass tiki bar, and she's just sitting there hanging out, and I'm like, why is she here? I go up and I start talking to her. She had just broken up with her boyfriend. She's like just hanging out and just partying. I'm like, oh fuck yeah. Incredible. Like 3 days of quite a good time. And yeah, that's just how it was though. It was just like beautiful women were just there all the time. It was a really cool experience. And so yeah, they eventually sold it to a porn company. So now that it's owned by kink.com.
Oh wow. Okay.
So if you guys go on that website, I'm sure you will see my old house all over it. So it's pretty funny. Yeah. Good times.
All right. Well, with that, there may be some people out there wondering, like, how is this gentleman, Casey, networking his way, gaining his way into all these exclusive spaces and experiences, et cetera, et cetera. So, first thing I want to, say is that the way I met Casey, and I think we can talk about the program, right? MOA. Can we talk? Okay, yeah. Just want to make sure. So if anybody knows Michael Sartain, he is someone that for a few years now I've known is sort of like a master networker in the Vegas scene. And he started a program called Men of Action. And I wanted to learn how, high status networking works. And hey, listen, if you're high status networking, you're going to get an environment where you're meeting all kinds of people, whether it's influencers or beautiful women or whatever. It kind of, the door's just open. And it could be that you just want to network because, hey, you may want to raise some capital for one of your companies, or you might want to, do like we're doing now, like maybe get some really cool guests on a podcast, whatever. So Casey became my coach, and that's how I met Casey. And so one of the things you guys say now, pretty much like it is the thing. If it's one thing that I got, and it's working wonderfully, by the way, which is fix your fucking Instagram. That's what you guys say. Fix your fucking Instagram. Okay, so first thing I want to ask is, why should, maybe not just men, but anybody in this day and age, what is the importance of Instagram? Maybe social media in general, but Instagram particularly, and why should you take the opportunity to not just post whatever the fuck on your Instagram, but really get some great photos? And that's part of what the program was when I went to Vegas, was that you guys took a bunch of amazing photos and they're on my profile. What's the importance of that? Why do that? And because a lot of men don't want to, they don't even want to touch social media. They're like, that's for the kids and blah blah blah, especially if you're maybe older. So what's the importance of that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'll say it right now, like, I fucking hate social media. Like, I hate it. Like, us as men, I think if women didn't exist, social media would not exist. And none of us would give a fuck about it. Like, it is very much a tool and a thing that is used mainly because women exist. And in that sense, it is sort of probably the biggest dating app in the entire world. Like, people don't really view Instagram as a dating app, and it's not a dating app in the traditional sense of like Tinder, where you're like swiping looking for a match. But when you fix your Instagram, when you get it on point, you open the doors to being able to connect with and network with and meet pretty much anybody on planet Earth. Like, one of the craziest things that we have today that we never had in the past was, if you wanted to, let's say, message Leonardo DiCaprio today, you could just send him a DM. Is he going to respond? Probably not, but you can do it. And if your profile is good enough, he might. If you get to that level, if Sartain, for example, was to reach out to Leo, his chances of getting a response is significantly higher than me or yours or any of us. So it's really cool in that sense, where like the more you level up your Instagram, it kind of unlocks the doors to more and more people and higher level people and more beautiful women as well. So it's really, in that sense, like the most powerful tool you have in your dating life and in your social life that you can leverage to really get access to anything that you want.
I'll vouch for that, man. Before I went into MOA and did the program, my Instagram was just kind of like whatever, whatever things. Went into the program, we got a lot of great pictures, and in the program, you teach people how to use tools like, in Photoshop, in photo in Lightroom. I actually do want to get your take on AI, because I know you teach a little bit of like using AI to do things, and there's some amazing tools in Adobe for sure. What do you think AI is? Are you? I mean, I feel like there's still room for photographers, and AI is more of a tool. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think AI has come a long ways, and I think we're on the edge of really just some life-changing shit coming out. Every single month there's something new that's been improved, but there's still something to be said about people wanting to actually have photos and videos of themselves doing actual things that they did. And that's impossible to replicate with AI, because unless you actually go out and do the thing, how are you going to get a photo of yourself doing the thing? And most people, I would say, don't want to just blatantly lie about things they've done. Some people have probably a lower moral standard for themselves, but for most normal people, like just taking an AI generated photo of themselves in a cool location is not going to be immensely valuable to what they want to do in life. Not saying there are, of course, some people like that, but for the most part, 99% of people out there aren't looking to just blatantly lie about what they do. And in that sense, photography is still going to be a very prominent thing. Videography is still going to be a very prominent thing. And AI is mainly going to be used to assist and make that easier for us. Just for example, generative fill in Photoshop, like before, it used to take me 2 hours sometimes to, remove things from the background or whatever. And it's not that I want to pretend like I'm there alone in this place, but it's like there's just distracting elements in the photo. And when it comes to photography, your goal is to convey a specific thing. And usually, if it's a photo of you, you want the attention to be on you. And if there's 20 people in the background, it's just distracting from what you're trying to drive home, which is, hey, I was in this location doing this cool thing. So
yeah, I definitely I've used it for sure, and yeah, for the reasons that you talk about, that just there may be a weird thing there and you just need to, remove it or, if you need to change a color or something or whatever. So, but yeah, from my experience, I can listen. All right, I'm going to have to make a speech here. Sorry, Casey. I'm going to have to take it away. Listen, all you incels out there. All right. Listen to me. Stop complaining on 4chan. All right. Stop going on Twitter and saying how you're a loser. All right. Here's what you got to do. Either learn it yourself or, talk to Casey here or talk to MOA. Figure it out. But get some good photos of you doing cool shit. Okay. In some exotic places. And I won't go into details because I don't want to give it all away. But there are certain things you can do in your photos to make yourself look really great, make yourself look really cool. Get a bunch of those photos. It's not that many. All right. Even though I've been terrible. Sorry, Casey. I've been terrible about getting them up. But I'm just saying, do that. At least fix your fucking Instagram first. And then, okay, you might need to work on your social skills. You might need to work on, your demeanor. You might need to hit the gym, all that. But get your Instagram fixed first. I'm telling you from personal experience, I'm already seeing the benefits of it, like exponentially than what was happening before. But how did you get involved in Men of Action, MOA? And I guess I have a couple of questions in terms of the philosophy, because there's a lot of things that you and Michael and the other guys, I never thought about. And it really kind of like really woke me up and made me really think about things. And the fixing the Instagram thing, making it sort of your bit, like that's more your LinkedIn in ways than the LinkedIn is. Like you can share a LinkedIn and somebody's bored as hell. You can share your Instagram and it's like a much better way for someone to understand like what you're about, what you do, and what your life's about than doing LinkedIn. But some of the other things that I think you guys teach that were really fascinating. One of the things is, Michael's all about the evolutionary psychology. How do you feel do you feel like we're living in an age where it's tougher for men and easier for women, or the idea that like women have so much more access to so much more knowledge of what the playing field is and men have so much more competition? Maybe you could speak on that and give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. My opinion is this: it is significantly more difficult for low status men and it is significantly easier for high status men. Again, we go back to the fact that your Instagram, you could DM any girl, doesn't matter who it is, and you can message her. That was never possible back in the day. And so what would happen is back in the day, there would be the hometown girl who was a cute girl, living in Hawkinson back in this tiny town with no, not even on the map. And there would be an opportunity for the guy who lived in that town to date and potentially marry that girl. Nowadays, it's very rare that that girl is dating or marrying a guy in her hometown because of the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio is reaching out to her saying, hey, do you want to come on my yacht in the Bahamas? And she's like, hang out with this little dingus here in my hometown or go on the yacht with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think I'll go on the yacht. And it's mainly because like women are naturally very hypergamous. Like they are very attracted to certain things about men. And one of those things is status and resources, access to scarce resources. And the fact that they are now able to get access to those things very, very easily and get access to those guys very, very easily makes it so that those guys who have access to those things have a way easier time. And the guys that don't have access to those things have a way more difficult time because all their girls are just leaving and on the boat with Leo. So until they turn 27, at least.
I mean, and I would say it's kind of like 80-20 rule, right? In terms of low status, high status. And I think Homath has that amazing diagram. Maybe
I love Homath.
Yeah,
it's fucking amazing.
But if that's the case, then what would be maybe some basic recommendations that men can do in order to raise their status? Like, what does it mean to be a high status man? And is that something that's achievable for someone who may be low status currently?
Yeah, so it's definitely possible. Like, you don't have to be Brad Pitt. You don't have to be Leonardo DiCaprio to get, date a beautiful woman or, become sort of this high status guy, because there are different ways to kind of reach that level, and you don't need to be 100% of that to get what you would want. I'd say some initial things that most guys should work on, definitely being in shape, definitely fixing their fashion, getting some of the basics down to a bare minimum. I kind of break things up into sort of the 4 levers that you can pull. One being looks for sure, one being personality, one being money, and one being status. You essentially want to pull at least one of these levers as close to 100% as possible, while keeping the other levels at least at the bare minimum viability, meaning like 80%. So if your fashion's at 80%, if your money's at 80%, if your status is at 80%, then you can have one of the others at 100%, and you're good to go when it comes to that. So, but you definitely need something in those categories. You either need a killer personality, you either need to look fucking 10 out of 10, you either need to have money 10 out of 10, or you need your status 10 out of 10, meaning you're either a celebrity, you're an extremely rich guy, you're a fucking 6'3" Eastern European model, or you're the funniest guy that girl's ever met in her life.
And this is like, I mean, to be fair, or I don't know, you tell me, that's if like you're someone who really wants a high status woman as well, right? In the sense of like,
yeah, what is a high status woman? Like we don't view women in the same way that women view us. For me, like a high status woman is more of like a high quality woman. You know, a woman who is very feminine, a woman who's very loyal, a woman who does not have like an extremely high body count, very promiscuous, younger, you know, attractive in the sense like fit, in shape, you know, proper proportions on face, body, things like that. Like those are the things that are more important to us as men. And so in order to get that type of girl, you do need to have your situation sort of figured out for the most part.
How did you meet Michael actually for the first time?
First time I ever met Michael was playing basketball, of course. He's obsessed with basketball.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in immersion. I was taking immersion. He would just help out with the program. He would do a training session every like Thursday, and we would just hop and play basketball with him. And yeah, that was the first time I met him. We didn't become really close friends until kind of COVID. COVID is where him and I became really close, because when COVID hit was when we started throwing bigger photo shoot events. And I was probably the first photographer that went out to one of his events and helped him out with it. And I then proceeded to set things up for him at other places, and we started doing bigger events. And that's where him and we just would hang out all the time. And then we ended up dating these 2 girls. He dated one, and I dated that girl's best friend, and they proceeded to try to ruin his life and a bunch of crazy ass shit. So, yeah, we bonded a little bit over the shared trauma. So
Wow.
it was a good time. But
I mean,
yeah.
not to go into detail on it, but I'm just saying, was it like, I mean, well, maybe we just don't go into it, but I'm just kind of curious what the nature of it was. But
just crazy women doing crazy shit.
Damn, man.
I'll leave it at that. Lucky for me, we ended things at the same time with our girls, and then they targeted him because he was the bigger, juicier target. So I kind of just got away scot-free, just like slipped off into the distance, and he just got fucking demolished. Luckily, like obviously Michael is an extremely stand-up guy, so like none of it stuck that these girls were trying to like fuck with him about. But you know, there was some crazy shit going down, but it was cool too, because like, you know, I still would invite him out to things, and that's where I feel like me and him became closer as well, because like he was going through a hard time, and I was able to kind of support him and hang out with him and talk to him about some of that stuff. So it was cool.
Yeah, I met Michael, and he's a super cool dude, and I got nothing but positive things to say about him. And definitely an inspiration. How do you feel? I want to ask you a couple more red pill things. We might get in trouble for these, but I know you would know, or you would have a strong opinion on it. How do you feel about traditional marriage and that whole thing? Because I am sort of battling with that, man. I'm getting older in age, bro, and when you start hitting your mid 40s or whatever, I don't know. Suddenly, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just biological, but your brain starts going, man, maybe I should just find the one true woman for me, settle down, have 10 kids,
10.
move to a farm.
Bro, if you want 10, you're late, brother.
Yeah, for real.
10
Man,
kids.
God damn,
Holy
you're gonna have to
shit.
start
Bro, I'm
pumping them
about
out.
to hit that TRT, boys. All right, we about to get that TRT up in here. I'm going
Doesn't
the
that stop you
distance.
from having kids?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that will reduce your chances there.
No, man. No, the T count gonna go up, sperm count gonna go up.
sperm count gonna go down.
Yeah, T goes up, sperm go down. That's a statement right there.
All right. Well, I'll figure it out. But I'm just saying, is it worth it?
Sure.
Is it worth it? And I've seen this all over Twitter, and there's all kinds of answers. But in your opinion, is it worth it for a man in this day and age? Take the plunge, get hitched up, do the whole family thing, or should he spin plates for the rest of his life?
I think it's a mix of both. I'll give you guys my personal preference and how I date, and then I'll give kind of my view on how it should be, I think, for most men. For me personally, I've been in a relationship now for the last 2 years. I plan on staying with her for the rest of my life as long as things go how they should go. I think that's one thing that men sort of fuck up a lot in it's the willingness to walk away at any point in time. And I think us as men, we always have to be willing to walk away more than the woman is willing to walk away. And I think that part of the problem with current, marriage is that the government has their hand in the relationship in the sense that they've created a system where it's more difficult for the man to walk away than it is for the woman. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, the power dynamic shifts very heavily in the woman's favor. And anytime that happens, like the attraction is just going to disappear because women are attracted to men who have options, who are willing to walk away, who are kind of strong in their own independence, and they get to be a part of that life that you live. And so in that sense, like when it comes to the United States government being inside of the relationship, I think that's where a lot of guys are ruining their marriages and ruining their relationships, just due to the way the nature of men and women are. For me personally, like my relationship is not 100% monogamous, but it is not me going out and fucking other girls by myself. So my girl and I, we have a relationship where me and her will go out and we will have threesomes with other girls. And this is the type of relationship I like because there's a couple of reasons why. Number one is I get to build a very deep emotional connection with my girl without like this sense of like, for us as men, we crave variety, especially with women. It's just in our nature. And so I'm able to build this deep emotional connection with my girl because I'm not going around fucking other girls behind her back. When we do go out together, when we do find a girl that we like and we decide we want to bring home, it's a thing that we do together. And I've always made sure to frame it in a way that it is a more enjoyable experience for her than it is for me. And the reason I do this is because if you don't frame it like this, you will have a girl that will go, well, I did a threesome for you, and so therefore you owe me blah, 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 and they won't shut the fuck up. So for me, it's always been a very strict, like, hey, this is for you. This is for you. This is not for me. Like if I wanted to, I could go fuck as many girls as I wanted to right now. Like I could go do it. Like when I'm doing a threesome, it's for me and my girl to have this shared experience together and to allow myself to have a little bit of variety in my relationship to where I don't feel the need to go outside the bounds of our relationship in order to fulfill that need. And not saying that I would, but like, I don't want to have that like feeling of like, oh, I'm trapped in this relationship where I can't go out and about. And so my girl is very bisexual. She likes women. So in that sense, I always use this analogy. It's like, especially whenever a girl like tries to push back on it, I'm like, hey, like we both like sushi, right? When we go to a sushi restaurant, like we both get to enjoy sushi together. And like, that's how I view the relationship that I have with my girl. We're both going to enjoy a sushi restaurant together. Because sometimes girls will be like, well, if we're going to have a threesome with a girl, then we should have a threesome with a guy too. And I'm like, well, that's like us going to Indian cuisine, and I hate Indian cuisine. But you like Indian cuisine. But because we went and got sushi, now you're like, no, we got to go to the Indian restaurant. I'm like, no, we don't. Like, you enjoyed it just as much as me. And so as long as you hold that frame, as long as you hold that like ability to balance things and set the expectations and boundaries in the relationship, I think having a relationship where you have threesomes with your girl is the optimal way to do it. It also helps keep your girl attracted to you as well, because one of the things that girls find attractive about a man is that other women want that guy. Like, no girl wants a guy that no other girl wants.
Okay, let's talk about this. I'm really because I think that's called pre-selection, right? The idea that
pre-selection, 100%.
If you're just a dude who walks in a club and it's just you alone, you know, okay, you may be good looking, you may have it together, but if you're a dude that walks in a club and you got, you know, even if you're don't have a relationship or having sex, if you just are surrounded by women that are considered by other women to be good looking women, that it just changes the game in terms of like you as a man. Listen, I see a green bubble in my chat. I'm judging you. Sure. I'm judging your life.
The green bubble now even says red. You can react to them now. Like they're trying to develop a whole new system to bring them on board. As long as it stays green, we're not friends, bro.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's essentially what pre-selection is.
Right. How do you? And I kind of want to lead more into kind of the state of affairs in terms of you know, what's going on in America right now. It's, you know, for anybody watching the future, we're about to have an election between Trump and Kamala and all that kind of stuff. And this what we're talking about here is actually playing a big role, I think, in what's coming up, because the male vote is being courted by all sides now, which is insane. Like, the male vote I've never heard in my entire life, we need to court the males, you know, because we're losing them.
Well, because the males are the vote, bro. The males have always been the vote. Of course, you don't have to add that to the sentence, right? But sorry, continue.
Right. No, but I guess what's interesting is that all these let's say manosphere things that have been popping up, and men feeling neglected, men feeling that they're being baited all day, and they don't have kind of the power they used to have, which women call toxic masculinity or whatever. That's playing a role in the election now, and maybe that's been a fatal mistake culturally. But I'm just curious, like, the first question I have for you is, do you believe that men are more or less masculine now, and are I don't know, like, is there an imbalance in the force between the genders?
I think as a whole, the answer would be yes. I think that, like, just the fact that we haven't had a serious war, you know, for a very long time has at the very least changed the mental aspect of us as men. We haven't had to, like, you know, be part of a draft, go out and potentially die for our country in a long time. And therefore, you know, it's that, you know, the saying, like, you know, was it hard times make hard,
right?
What is it? I forget whatever that saying is, but essentially, like, we've created weak men through the fact that we haven't had difficult times in a long time. I think we are probably physically a little bit are superior physically than we would have been 10, 20 years ago, but I think that's more so to do with the science behind exercise and lifting and sports and all of that stuff. Like, obviously, you know, every single Olympics, every single year in basketball, like, our athletes get better, and as a whole we do get better, aside from the obesity kind of thing that we have going on, which is kind of why I say, like, you know, probably the majority of men are weaker, but I'd say the top 10%, 20% are probably more masculine than they were, you know, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was, you know, my brother, and I was expecting him. We asked him the question about the military and whether or not it's, you know, it's less tough now than it is, and he was just like there's 80%. It's lax, but that top 20, the special forces guys and all that, are fucking hard as fuck, you know.
Yep.
Which made me feel a lot better. I was like, hey, great. Like, our entire military isn't being compromised. But interesting, man. What are your thoughts on? I mean, I think based on your social media, you lean in one way. You're leaning towards the MAGA side, the Trump side. What do you think of what's going on in the election, man?
You know what's funny is a girl sent me the other day that I look like JD Vance. That's hilarious.
Is that a compliment? That's kind of backhand. I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
He's a pretty good looking guy for a politician.
Yeah.
Not a horrible looking guy.
But yeah, I'm definitely pro-Trump. I'm definitely not anywhere close to leaning left on pretty much any issue. Yeah, which is why, you know, I've been Republican for a long time, conservative. So
yeah, I'm between. I think we're going. I think I'm going for it. I might be going for it. I don't know. I'm not going for Kamala for sure.
What the fuck is holding you back, bro? Like, I
we
know we're
just-
interviewing Casey, but I need to ask you.
I think-
What the fuck?
I
Something we
also
can-
would like to know.
Something we can discuss offline.
No,
discuss offline.
no,
Something
this
that
is
will not
not
allow
1950s.
YouTube to
we
be
discuss politics in fucking public now.
not on YouTube. We maybe for X, but you know, I'm kind of curious if there's somebody out there who's lost. You know, I think there are a lot of men that, I mean, there's more, I think, male suicides than ever before. A lot of men who feel like they don't have value. And I mean, you're 100% right. I really do believe that social media and these things have created this gap between, like, it used to be the common dude could just find a girl and settle down, you know, and she may not be, the, some kind of model or something, but hey, you know, she's homely but sweet. Maybe she, she might do some of the household duties once in a while. You know what I'm saying? But it seems like that there's this vacancy now, and I just wonder, even if all the men get fit and get money and get to the certain level, is it lost? Is it always going to be 2080, or is it just sort of like, because I think when a country has a lot of men that feel lost and feel like they don't have value, that's when trouble brews, and that's when you can get wider societal issues. Whether any woman out there is like, fuck all men. I mean, hey, listen, okay, whatever. But I'm just saying, it's in your interest to do something to give men value in their lives so that they don't say they have nothing to lose and go do crazy stuff. So I don't know. Do you feel like, is there something that, maybe we as men can do in general to sort of give ourselves more meaning, more fulfillment, more, more of a sense of worth?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think that I was listening to like a Jordan Peterson talk one time where he was talking about monogamy, and like one of the biggest arguments for monogamy is kind of the safety of us in general as a society, because incels as a whole are probably one of the most dangerous group of people that you can create. And if we have a situation where, 80% of women go for the top 10% of men, it becomes a situation where you are creating a lot of incels. You're creating a lot of men who are desperate, who are not able to find a mate, who are not able to find someone to, have as a partner, a lifetime partner. And it's going to probably create a very dangerous situation in the sense that we're going to have, and we've kind of seen it in the US, there is a lot more of that happening with like school shootings and things like that, where these very frustrated men who just never got access to women, never had a good experience with women, are coming out and doing horrendous things to other human beings. And so I think in the self-interest of us as a society, I think that if we need to work on fixing this as best as we can, and in that sense, like that's what Men of Action is trying to do, in my opinion, is like there's been guys who I work with who are virgins, who have been virgins their entire lives, and to be able to take them from where they are, a very frustrated, angry person, and bring them to a point where they are happy, flourishing, meeting a woman that they are interested in, and potentially dating them, potentially getting married, having kids. We just had a guy who we were working with who, let me see here. Yeah, so he's been working with us for 2 years, and he came from an extremely hard place. Like there was tons of therapy calls with this guy, and now he's literally getting his first long-term girlfriend. Now he's getting married to. He proposed to her, and it's incredible to see a guy who was basically someone who had zero chance of ever finding a wife and a family and being happy in that sense, to be able to bring them from where they were to where he is now. is, potentially not only making that person happy, but potentially saving lives as well. Because who knows where that guy would have been 2 years from now if he hadn't gotten to that point. Maybe he's at some school shooting it up, causing a bunch of mayhem, taking his own life as well. And so in that sense, like, I really am passionate about what we do at Men of Action, because not only are we helping guys, but we're potentially helping, a bunch of other people as well. So
damn, man, that's good to hear. Listen, I'm gonna toast you up for that, man. I toast up Casey here. That's amazing to hear. And yeah, I mean, I can vouch for Men of Action. It was great. I did do the Vegas immersion, met a lot of really great people. I'm not going to say his name or whatever, but there was one dude, and it's pretty amazing. He had everything pretty much together, except his hair was kind of weird. His hair was kind of weird. He had like hair, and there was like a bald spot, whatever. And in the program, everybody, because one of the things you guys do really well is it's not too crazy, but it's kind of like a boot camp, right? Like, people get honest with each other, and they're like, look, bro, like, this guy over here, you gotta get your fashion right. This guy over here, you gotta do this. And we all told him, we were like, bro, you gotta shave your head. You would look dangerous as fuck. You look like a cartel bro, like, if you shaved your head, and looking a little dangerous doesn't hurt with the ladies, right? Because he's like the nicest guy in the world, like, so he needs. We were like, you need to shave your head to offset how nice a guy you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And he was resistant, man. He did not want to shave his head, and it got to a point where I think, like, one of the other guys, I won't name anybody, but one of the other guys was like, listen, like, tomorrow you're coming here and your head is shaved. Like, it's not even a decision. We're not letting you continue with the program unless you shave your damn head. So he goes and does it, and bro, like, he's killing it now. Like, he's writing me on Instagram, and he's like, "Where's your blah blah blah?" I'm like, "Bro, man," and he's like embarrassing the rest of us. He's killing it out, out in Texas.
Oh yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about, man. I had a call with him a couple days ago, and he's like going to this Maxim party now. He has like 20, 30 models like DMing him, sliding into his DMs, just like hanging out with a bunch of people, getting like VIP access, like passes given to him, just through leveraging content and stuff that he's doing. Yeah, it's been an incredible jump, because like, I've been working with him for almost a year now, and day one was rough, and now to see where he is, it's like, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing because with him, I think with a lot of people in the program, like, everybody has an excuse. You know what I mean? He had an excuse. I have excuses. Every dude has excuses for, things not working out for them. And some are valid. I mean, some are like deep. You got to work. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of therapy or whatever to figure it out, or, whatever. Maybe you got to spend a little money to get your clothes right or whatever, but I think that was probably one of the most rewarding things and fascinating things about doing the program, is that you're with other people. Everybody has their challenges, and a lot of barriers are broken. A lot of limiting beliefs are challenged and broken. And yeah, man, he's killing it, and he's excited, and he makes me feel embarrassed, which is a good thing, because I got to get my shit together. But so I can vouch for that with Men of Action. I think it's a great program. It's not just about picking up women. I think Michael makes that very clear. It's about improving, yourself as a man, and it's about learning the skill set of how to network and how to actually meet people, not just hot chicks. Like, also, I mean, that's part of it, but it's like, a lot of it is like, when you meet high status people, like how to interact with them, how to talk to them, how to, not look like you're a noob or whatever. So I'll definitely vouch for the Men of Action program. We'll put the information in the show notes for, if anybody's interested, to see what that's all about and learn more. But with that, hey, listen, man, I'm so stoked that you're on the show today. Thank you for dedicating your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys bringing me out here. It's been awesome. It's been awesome to see you grow this as well. You've been killing it, man. Working hard.
We're figuring it out, but I think we're almost. I say this every month. We're almost there. I'll probably 10 years from now, I'll be like, we're almost there.
This is the second business that I've done with Ravine, and no matter how much we get there, we're always almost there. Always. But we'll get there eventually.
We'll get there. That's what you have to do. I think it's the Elon method. set super high standards, I guess, and then we just keep going. So that's about it.
Yeah, that's the single biggest indicator. If you guys have ever read the book Grit, it is the only indicator that they have ever found to accurately predict success, and it is simply not giving up. And so as long as you guys keep at it,
you only fail when you quit, man. So
100%. 100%.
All right. Well, listen, thank you, Casey. We'll put all of his contacts and Instagrams and everything in the show notes of this episode. So if you're curious, if you want to ask him photography questions or check out Men of Action, it'll all be there. Fresh, as we come to the close of this show, what the people got to do, man?
You got to like, you got to subscribe, you got to hit the bell, you got to comment, you got to send it to your dad.
Listen, you got to get an incel friend. That guy, he's like, I'm going to play World of Warcraft all day. I'm not going to shave my head. I'm not going to shower. Women are dumb. I'm done with life. You got to find that guy or gal. It may be a gal. Who knows? And get them to watch this episode.
Yeah, prevent a school shooting while you're at it.
And send it to your dad, send it to your uncle, and fuck you.